listening to Tapped In, Buncombe County's half hour to empower on WRES 100.7 FM in Asheville. Listen up and get tapped into local important resources, information, and topics. Learn more about the topics of today's show at buncombecounty.org. Okay, it's time to get tapped in.
Hello, and greetings. It is that time, and if you're listening to my voice, you know it's time to get tapped in. I'm one of your hosts, Zakia Bell Rogers.
And I'm Leonard Jones.
And Leonard and I come to you from the Communications and Public Engagement Department of Buncombe County.
And so today is the first of a 5-part series that we'll be doing about the Community Reparations Commission that is taking place here in Buncombe County and the City of Asheville. I would like to introduce our special guests, Sala, Merritt, and Bobbette. They're here to discuss the work in progress of the Housing Impact Focus Area, a work group of the Commission. Welcome, Sala and Bobbette.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
So before we get started, I would like to just give some context about this commission. The Community Reparations Commission is empowered to make recommendations that will make significant progress towards repairing the damage caused by public and private systematic racism. The 25-member commission appointments were made from the city and county government impact focus area experts in legacy neighborhoods. Those legacy neighborhoods are Burton Street, East End Valley Street, Shiloh, Southside, Stumptown, Asheville Housing Authority, and the heart of Chestnut. The commission receives ongoing support from the city and county staff to ensure cohesion throughout. Commission term is 2 years from the appointment ending March-April of 2024. The impact focus areas are criminal justice, health and wellness, housing, education, and economic development. And that is your background.
And just a quick timeline of everything that's going to happen. The Asheville City Council, as well as the Board of Commission in the spring of 2020, passed resolutions supporting community reparations for Black Asheville and Buncombe County. Around the summer of 2021, there was the information sharing and truth-telling speaking series, where a series of local and national speakers came in through facilitating discussions with community members about past policies and practices and present trends and future initiatives. And so around funding for reparations, we know in 2021, the City Council passed a resolution and a budget amendment to the amount of $2.1 million from the City General Capital Project Fund, utilizing a land sale proceeds to provide initial funding for reparations. In the spring of 2022, the formation of the commission happened as well. And then the county funding for reparations around the summer of 2022, Buncombe County's FY23 budget passed and included an additional $2 million intended funding for immediate and short-term recommendations generated by the commission. One of the first recommendations that came out of this commission was ongoing support and commitment. At the summer of 2022, the city and county allocated an additional investment of $500,000 in future budgets, as well as the Board of Commission did the same for future reparation budgets with an annual increase of 2%. Also in 2022, the second recommendation came out of the commission, the immediate recommendation to stop harm. And the commission unanimously approved an immediate recommendation to the City of Asheville as well as Buncombe County to stop future harms. The immediate recommendation included conducting an official audit to ensure compliance with federal and state laws, regulatory bodies, code of conduct, court order, and consent decrees to allow the acceptance of guarantee that the city and county has ceased the inflicting future harms on the African American community. And the city as well as the county uphold the stop the harm recommendations in 2023 as well. And we find ourselves where we're at today, where there's continued to develop recommendations. And so today, as we mentioned earlier, we're going to focus on one of the impact focus areas of housing. So now let's get to it.
All right. So either Bobbette or Sala can answer this question. What does it mean to have an impact focus area around housing?
Bobbette, you want me to take that? So one of the recommendations, so you understand that we have the 5 buckets, and thank you, Leonard, for sharing those 5 buckets. The Housing IFA focuses on increasing Black home ownership and other strategies to support upward mobility and build generational wealth within the Black community. Now, what does that mean, right? When we talk about key harms that were addressed, we're talking about the displacement of Black homes and neighborhoods due to urban renewal. So when we look and have our conversations in our Housing IFA, we're looking at how can we redress that harm? How can we turn that around? How can we correct that? So that's basically what we do. We have speakers come in and we kind of talk about like what information is out there. Share with us what you have, because we really want to determine what it is that's within our power, right? To correct the wrong, to make it right.
Oh yeah, and and people, when they hear the word reparation, you have to understand it's called repair. And even though like you break your arm, we need to understand that it'll never take away that you broke that bone. But when you repair a broken bone, it makes it better than being broken. So what we're doing is trying to repair the harm and make those folks in a better position. Correct. So I think I want people to understand that part as well. So when and where and how often do you meet?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. I have to get this right because I oversee 2 impact focus areas. So housing meets the 2nd and 3rd Tuesday of every month from 6 to 8 at the Grant Center.
So, and the Grant Center, and for you all who have been here a very long time, it is better known as the Reed Center of Wealth by Livingston, 133 Livingston Street. No, that's the Edison. Oh, the Grant Center is down the hill. It's the one with the new pool.
Yes.
So down the hill, I'm sorry, I'm giving you all the wrong information. It used to be the baseball field.
Yeah.
Correct.
That's what it was. And so it's a new structure. So if you can go, it's open to the public?
It is open to the public, yes.
Yeah. So you all hear that. It is open to you all to go and attend and hear what's going on. Because if you don't engage, you don't know. So
I love that, yeah.
And so I heard you mention one of the key harms around like lack of generational wealth. What are some of the other key harms that the housing impact focus area is focusing on?
Bobbette, you want to answer that?
Stopping gentrification in Black communities and the lack of competent financial literacy programs for Black people. We know that gentrification has already taken place. But what we would like to do in these neighborhoods would be able to keep the people that are there in their homes. Because some of them can't afford either the taxes or their homes need to be in repair and they're not able to get that done. And that all comes piece with the financial piece of all of what we're working with to address all those harms.
Okay, so so we're a year in this process. As we went through the timeline earlier, if someone comes to the meeting, who have some of the guests been coming into the meeting, or is it just discussion? How is the meeting set up?
We've had RJC
Racial Justice Coalition.
We've had those,
yes.
and we've always had someone from the city and the county to come. The lawyers come. We've had the group. What's the name of the young group?
Arteria, is that how you say it?
They've come once or twice. We've had those to come. Then we've had people from there's a real estate group that came in at one time. So we see that kind of different diversity of people coming in with just to get information from us on what we're doing.
Have they shared any information, and if so, what's some of the information y'all discovered throughout the first year?
I think the young group, they have really stepped up to doing research and they're taking notes, and RJC is doing the same thing. They're having little community events with housing. They've been to Shiloh. They have different areas in the Black communities that they go in so that people will be aware of what reparation is and what the work that we are doing.
Okay. And they bring the information that they're hearing from community back to y'all, just kind of share to help y'all formulate some of those ideas.
And just to add to what Bobbette said, we also had the Asheville Buncombe Community Land Trust.
Okay.
I got that right. And we had Kate Cutshaw from the Library Archives come in and share some information. We're looking into some things about model cities, right? We really want to make sure that as we move forward with this work, that we are getting all the information. We want informed decisions, informed recommendations. So we are making sure that the people that we bring in, the organizations that we bring in to speak, they're answering the questions that we may have as we're having these discussions.
So we have this one part group and we have 5 areas. How does this work connect with the larger reparations group?
For housing, we feel like it overlaps and intersects in many, many ways. So Bobbette talked about education, right? We understand that when we talk about losing property, right? Sometimes it's because we don't know.
Yes.
We don't know what we don't know. So we really want an education component to housing, right? Educating individuals on air property, right? On if you don't pay your taxes, what will happen? On how to save for a house, how to build your credit. We're looking at doing foundational things, right, to assist individuals with keeping their housing, obtaining housing. The foundation is very, very important.
And I think which is so important to understand, we look at the city and we know we have a lot of housing communities that are placed within the city.
Right.
And a lot of folks, may say, why don't they get out of housing? Housing is a stepping stone, but it's kind of hard to get out when you don't have that education of how to get out.
Right.
So, establishing those financial literacy programs to how to obtain and maintain household. Right now, those folks are just surviving.
Right.
And so through this reparation process, along with housing, we want to teach them to survive and transition into thriving into home ownership.
Exactly. And the other thing is that we understand, sorry about that, we understand that not everyone wants to be a homeowner.
Yes.
But education is still important because you may have a child in your home that's going to grow up to be an adult, and you want to be able to share that information that you know, that knowledge that you have to say, I don't want to own a home, but this is what you need to know. You want to give your children a foundation. We want to build that generational wealth.
And I get that because every time something breaks in my house, I don't want to be a homeowner.
Right. Okay. Easier to have the landlord come and take care of it, right?
Especially when the pipes bust.
Right.
Okay, Ms. Bobbette.
And when we look at the other groups as far as health and wellness, we're looking at in the communities where we see that our children have been placed on higher medications for behavior because they said at school system said they can't do anything with them. So the research with where they are at home and how it goes into their health and wellness, by the time they go to middle school or high school, it's their choice whether they want to take the medicine. And the medicine that they've been on is almost like a drug.
Yeah.
And once they just take them off, then it does something to their psyche. They're not even able to cope socially because what we see in our environments are kids that are on medication that is so strong that they're like zombies. They don't have an appetite. When you see, and that's a part of education too, because parents need to know what the end result of all of those things. Okay, so then you look at that in the criminal justice system also. Because what happens by the time they're teenagers going into adulthood, all these things that have happened to them, and it's generational. It comes from, if we look back at the harm that was done with urban renewal, the people that were displaced, whether they owned or they rent their homes, they were displaced, you know where they went? Into housing. So you've got 5 and 6 generations of no hope. So if you lost the little bit that you did have, and then you're trying to raise your children, then they don't have hope either. And so how do we change that and get that? That would be part of the criminal justice, and economic development would be giving them a shot at where they can go, what they can do to either self-employment or building something, because I'll even say a drug dealer is smart. They know how to handle their money. So if we could do something more of a positive way for them to be able to see. And so I think that when we work with the younger kids now, we have to start giving them positive motivation. Because they see so much on television, games they play, it's negative. So we need to change that and transform it.
Yeah.
So I hear y'all mention urban renewal. So we know that a lot of times when the discussion around reparations, people think it's spanning from slavery up to current day. Is that one of the key areas y'all focusing on urban renewal? And just for the listeners, can you just explain urban renewal and what that process was?
I think that's about that.
No, you started out, finish it.
I love you. So when we look at urban renewal, that's land that was taken away from Black folk, right? And not in a kind way, right? It was taken, it was stolen. We're just gonna put it out there that it was stolen.
And it was a government policy.
Yes, it was a government policy. Thank you for that. So one of the recommendations that we have is that we immediately return all urban renewal land is being held in moratorium by the City of Asheville to be placed aside for reparations. That was one of the recommendations that we've already put forth. We've had conversations with the attorneys, and we're definitely going to have to wordsmith that in some type of way, because there are some policies in place, right? And legislation is like, well, no, you just can't do it. It can't go to an individual. It has to go to a 501c3. And then what happens to that land once it's given back? So definitely returning that land. And the other thing that we found out is that as we were looking at the plots of land that are left, they're very small. So it's not like there's a lot that you can do with it.
Yeah.
But we still want it back.
Yes.
Right. The other is we were asking about a land acquisition program, but we also put forth that any land that the city or the county took during urban renewal, that they give back that amount of acreage that they took. We say add interest. Now what that interest looks like, we don't know, right?
Yeah.
But whatever land was taken, the amount of acreage that be given back. And we have very strong opinions about that, and that's something that we're really gonna work towards. How it's gonna turn out, I don't know, but we're gonna ask for the sky.
Oh yeah.
And see what we get.
And that should be,
Right.
what it is, because the thing is, it was taken away so strong armed, and so and the mental health of losing those things was passed
Right.
to their children, and the emotional damage,
Yes.
the lack of trust of the government, so we're doing a lot of repairing, even as Buncombe County government employees.
Right.
So can I just add
Yes,
that
ma'am.
being the fact that I was not part of that, but my neighbors and stuff may have had, because I was raised in Stumptown. So I know that the people that lived around me lost theirs. What I want to say is the harm that was the most, people that own their homes, they even told them that their homes were condemned, what they weren't. And they were told that they couldn't get a bank loan. So that was the harm that they did to them, was to push them out. So we'll give you a couple of dollars because it's not worth anything. And I know that some of my friends, and I call them my family in Stumptown, it was sad to hear them say that when they decided that they were going to do the urban renewal, and they wiped out 22 homes in Stumptown because they wanted to put an amphitheater, that's what is there now, and a ball field. But they told the people in my community that they were going to make a playground for the kids, and they even helped to clean it up for that purpose, only to be told
You have to
something
leave.
different. Well, no, it was told, no, they had left, but they were going to help the ones that didn't have to leave. They said, well, it's going to be a playground for your kids, and we're going to make this a state of the arts. And they didn't do that. They came up with an amphitheater and a softball field that the people in the community do not use. So the harm comes from, I don't want to say lies, but the misinformation. I'll put it like that, the misinformation about what your property is worth. And instead of saying, well, we can help you to get a loan or to build your house up so that you can stay here, but they wanted to take all of it. So they wiped it all out. And that's what urban renewal did, was they took everything from us. And people that lived here, and they understand it. They even with the educational piece, they took us out of our schools and our neighborhoods, but they didn't replace it. And they never brought anybody else back into. So all of our culture was lost because I was part of that desegregation. You lost everything that you had learned in an all-black school growing up.
And that care and
And that
compassion
care.
from those teachers.
And so then you had that kind of like, well, what do they care? Because when I was in school, my teachers knew my parents. We all either went to church together. We all had the same kind of values. I tell everybody when I was in the 2nd or 3rd grade, I did something one day and my teacher pinned a note on my sweater. And I didn't have enough sense to know to take it off. So I went all the way home and that's when, but that was the connection that we had. And so when they moved us, we didn't see anyone that looked like us. They'd already taken from our community. Then they took from our education. Then they put us in a system. And so we lost, and all of we had that was part of us, even the block was taken. It's gone.
Yeah, because if you go to the block now, it looks nothing near.
I was a block baby. My daddy was taking me at 5 years old, so I know the block. Yes.
I remember going to the Stumptown meetings when we first started the reparations process and being able to listen to you, Bobbette, and the other women and men who were a part of Stumptown, right, and listening to their stories. And the joy that it brought me to hear, like how you grew up, and I think one of them was like walking through the trees and how spooky it was, and right, or going to the local store
In the graveyard.
Exactly.
We used to play in the graveyard.
Right. And then the flip side of that is hearing how that's lost, and that where is Stumptown, right? Like where is that? It's an erasure. Is what happens instead of erasure. And I remember saying, why do you guys call it Stumptown? And it was like, because they called the trees down and it was just the stumps. And
and that's what it was.
Right. And so even in the housing impact focus area last night, they were sharing stories. And I was like, I need you all to record these stories.
Yeah.
Right? Because for heaven forbid that you fall asleep one night and don't wake up the next morning, that history is lost. Right. So really recording that, because I think that that's important to document during this process, the impact of urban renewal and the harm that was done. And there's just some things you can never get back.
Yeah.
And it's so, like you said, capture those stories. It's so important because the thing is, if we don't hear about it, somebody else will write it their way.
Another narrative.
It goes from being our story to his story, which becomes history.
Right.
And so we have to make sure that we're documenting and getting our voices told and getting it written authentically of what happened in this community. Because Buncombe County didn't have the largest amount of property.
Well, I think our urban renewal project is one of the largest in the Southeast.
Yes.
And so, like, current impact on the city today, when you think of South Charlotte Street, the way that runs through, when Valley Street used to exist. So just to know that impact. I know I'm 3rd generation here in Asheville, and that my great grandmother had a home on Livingston Street as well. So we know that with urban renewal, it displaced a lot of people in the community because her home eventually. She left that home and purchased another home in the northern part of the city around Hillside Street. So we know it has a change in the impact from those 60s and 70s to current day. So just your experience on the IFA, what's been some of the challenges or barriers faced in some of the discussions?
I think first of all, we had to get to know each other. We had to get to know that we all have a place in that. So once we got that and we started listening to the knowledge of each other, it was a process. And it was a good process because now we have kind of like, we're almost like family.
I think we are family, right? It is. We think about that, you got that forming, storming, norming, all of that, right? And then they know each other from community. It's like not everyone was a stranger when they came in. So there's that personal side, like I know you outside of this, right? And then there's that other side. I guess, we all have our different personalities, and everyone comes with some lived experience when it comes to what's happened here. And so it can be challenging, but in a loving way, right? Because everyone's after the same goal. And so that's what makes it work.
And I think we had to decide, we had to say, this is what we're focusing on.
Right.
Because we really didn't know how we were going to start at the bottom to get through this reparation and the harm.
Right.
Because everybody doesn't understand it the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And once we sat down that way, then we were able to process it better and start looking at some goals and recommendations.
And I wish that this show was an hour and not 30 minutes. So I have to start wrapping up. But before we do that, I want each one of you all to leave a nugget for the community that you think is important that they know. And either one of you can start first.
I came with Bobbette. So what I will say is a closed mouth does not get fed. There's a lot of times that we don't say what we feel. We don't speak up, and that's hurtful to us. So if there's something that you want us to share out with the larger commission, or just to get out to community, attend our meetings and share with us that information. We do a community engagement events with the Racial Justice Coalition, but please show up. Please show up and represent for the Black community.
Yeah.
I just want people to know that my passion is for communities because I was raised here. I know the communities, and I want them to always know that you may think that the process is not going anywhere, but we're working hard. We want to work it right. That's why I'm appreciative of the attorneys that are there with us, so that whatever we take, they can bring it back and tell us how it will work or how we need to redo it. But I want people to understand that our passion is for the communities and for the people. And so we have, if you have a community association, because I take back when I'm there, the things that I've gained and learned. And so I wish that everybody would do it. And I ask people when I see them, what do you want to see? And that's how we do. So that's the goal.
And I would just like to encourage community to, as Sala had mentioned earlier, to participate in this process. It's 25 members, coming up with the recommendations, but we need the community as a whole to help support them, encourage them, give them ideas as well, so we can seize this opportunity that's being presented to Asheville and Buncombe County. We know reparations is a very controversial topic, but we are trying to repair some of the harms that happen here in Asheville. So we strongly encourage community to show up, support these 25 individuals, and let their voices be heard. I think the commission will uplift those ideas, and we'll come out with the best solutions for Black Buncombe County as well as the City of Asheville. So I just would like to remind people that the larger commission meetings are held on the third Monday at 6 p.m. at the Harris Cherokee Center. We allow validations, so you can park. It's free parking to come and attend and listen to what's happening. Also, a lot of the meetings are also recorded and virtually streamed, and you can also go back to the City of Asheville public input site as well to just catch up, hear some of the discussions that is happening with the larger group. So, and we strongly encourage community members to attend the impact focus areas. As Sala said, they meet at the Grant Center. What's some of those dates again?
It is the second and the third Tuesday of every month. I will add that this month it's the second and fourth Tuesday.
Yeah. So yes, we just strongly encourage community to help support this and push this initiative for us. Halfway through the process, it will continue into the spring of next year. Recommendations are starting to be formalized, so we really want community to give their input to help them come up with their recommendations and to best serve and have the largest impact on the community as well. So this is the first of our 5-part series. It was on housing. In 2 weeks, again, we'll be with the next impact focus area, which is focused around criminal justice. So tune in. This is a 5-part series. So tune in and find out more about the Community Reparations Initiative.
And that was Professor Leonard Jones, who always gives us all the information. And I just want to wrap this up very sweetly. I think so often that we have been taught history so wrong that it feels painful when you hear the truth, or it feels unbelievable. Well, this is a chance where you can make history and have it authentically heard and described by people who lived it. Regardless if you believe that someone, a group of folks deserve reparations or not, even if you think, well, I wasn't here, I didn't do it, you cannot ignore the fact that even though it happened many years ago, the effects of that wave continues to hit each generation due to being neglected and denied certain freedoms. I often look at this process as a sculptor, and a sculptor takes a lot of time and different, manipulation, fingerprints and hand movements and things of that nature. No, the first hand movement does not change the clay. But as that sculptor continues to come to that clay and work with it and pour in its vision, it turns into a masterpiece. And that is what this team is, this commission is. Just because the first meeting it didn't make a huge impact, it doesn't mean that they're not working together to sculpture a masterpiece. Buncombe County is small enough that we could be the blueprint for anybody else. We are one Buncombe. At the end of the day, it is important to take care of each other as we would want to be taken care of. And from us to you, until next time, you've been tapped in.
Thank you for listening to Tapped In, Buncombe County's half hour to empower, here on WRES 100.7 FM in Asheville. Learn more about today's topics at buncombecounty.org. Otherwise, stay tuned for more great episodes coming up.